All right, guys, I am here with Jeff Beinke. We are at Reformation Brewery, and as you guys know, I always butcher the intro. So this is Andy McCann. I am the owner of CrossFit Garage, and our podcast is helping you build a firm foundation in life, in fitness, food, and finances. So we want you to be free and to live that good life now as well as when we're 90s. And so Jeff and I are going to get into some of the topic of what happens when we're in our 90s and what does it look like? Because if you have, let's say you work your butt off and have all this money but no health, well, that's not good. So, okay, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right, so Andy, I was born, whoops.
Yep, that's okay, it happens.
I was the son of an Army officer. I was born in Fort Eustis, Virginia.
Yep, Vern?
Vern.
Yeah?
My dad, yeah.
You're like, how does he know that?
How do you know that?
You had posted, I went on Facebook real quick and looked, and so Josh and Vern, and yeah.
I got you. All right, so he was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, NCO in Korea. But when I was born in Fort Eustis, Virginia, we moved to Fort Wainwright in Alaska.
Yeah.
We were
Alaska?
Yeah.
Well, how old were you in Alaska?
6 months to 4 years.
Okay, so not enough to really get out there and be dangerous, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, those memories, are they memories of mine or are they just stuff that I've concocted together?
Dude, all the time. When you remember stuff, do you remember in third person or is it first person?
I don't remember.
No? So when I think of things, it's always third person. I'm like, how can it possibly be third person?
Right.
So I know my brain is making crap up,
Right.
and I'm like, that's just weird, but that's...
I do know I kissed my first girl there, though.
And 4, good job.
Yeah, Ann Moore was her name.
And you remember her name. That's
I
very
got a little
good.
picture of us dressed up. Anyway, that's beside the point. So then we went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then Fort Benning in Columbus, and then Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah. His last duty station was in Jefferson City, Missouri.
Wow.
And then he retired, worked for the state for a while, and then we moved to Macon, Georgia.
Okay.
And he went to law school, and I started high school. My mom was the son of a career NCO.
Yeah, daughter of a career NCO.
Sorry, yeah.
That's what I got you. I got you.
And my mom and dad actually met in Japan in the late 40s in the occupation army when her dad was stationed there as well.
Okay.
And he's kind of an interesting story. He was special forces in Korea before special forces was established. Some of the stuff he did, he was kind of a leading guy on that. Interesting dude. But anyway, so that's...
Did you go into the military as well?
I did not,
okay.
no. By the time I got military age, my dad was pretty adamant about nothing. This is in the 80s, he's late 70s. The military was in shambles post-Vietnam. He was pretty adamant about not making that my career. And in retrospect, I wish I had done something, like the National Guard or something, but...
Well, so this is our first cut back. So I'm almost 50. How old are you?
I'm 62.
Okay, so somebody said to me the other day, hey, Andy, if you had the opportunity to go back and be 25, would you? I'm like, well, no, because I know so much more about who I am, and I'm more comfortable in my own skin than I was at 25, right? So we look back and say, like, when I had 3 career goals at the age of 5. One was to be a Catholic priest. I don't know why, but that was on my list. A truck driver, and in the military some way. I did none of those. But, right, so you look back like, hey, had I been in the military, I have short hair. Everyone always asks, hey, are you military? I always say roger that in emails and texts and whatever. I'm like, no. And so I kind of feel like maybe I should have, but then we wouldn't be who we are. And so maybe we'd be better, but it would be different.
Life would have been different. Things, I regret not doing it, but I also understand that there are implications to that, such that I may not have met my wife at Georgia. Then if that doesn't happen, then I don't have, my 3 wonderful kids and the grandkids and
Rosalind?
She's one of them. She's the youngest one.
You don't have any of that. So that's the things, like I tell people all the time, do not go to Georgia Tech. It is way too hard. And they're like, well, you went there. I'm like, well, would you go back? I'm like, well, I met my wife there and I have 4 kids. So yes, but yes, it is a really tough role. So UGA, what did you graduate with?
Management Information Systems, MIS.
Oh, okay.
That's where I met my wife in class. And we were one of the first graduating classes using that degree because it was relatively new. It was a mix of computer science and business.
Right. So my brother's son, Joseph, just graduated. Well, that's one thing as I get older, I mess up all my time frames.
Time frame changes,
it does, yeah. So I'm like, just as like a year ago, it's not. He's got like a baby or a 2-year-old and one on the way. So he's not just out of college. Yeah. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago, but he graduated with MIS.
Yep.
And the the overlap of understanding how to program with the business. So he actually at his first job wrote some code to like pull some data together to like shortcut the whole process. And they're like, what like evil genius do we have in our department? He's like, Uncle Andy, it was easy. It's not like it was, but it's just what you know and how to overlay those businesses. So my oldest son, Evan, oldest son, he's at UGA right now.
You got to get that straight, by the way.
I know. It's the oldest.
I'll tell you a funny story. When growing up, my mom used to always call me by the dog's name because I was the third out of four.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
My younger brother's 10 years younger than me, so he was more of a single child. And so after us having 2 or 3 kids, I finally called her one day and went, Mom, I'm so sorry that I got mad at you all those years for calling me by the dog's name. I fully understand.
Yeah. Well, so Jordan Thomas, who's at the gym, he has all these interesting little factoids, and one of them is he said that it's been studied that the people you love, their names and the information is stored in a same spot in your brain. So not like people on your periphery, but those really special loved ones. And so there is a science or a why behind. I'm like, great, because I feel like it's just me getting older, but it's not. And there's like, as you fill it up with people you really, really love, the names and emotions and stuff kind of intertwine. So yeah. So I call my kids the wrong names a lot, and I really can't help it. But I've told them ahead of time, like, look, this is going to happen, and I'm just sorry for that. But
anyway, Evan's in Georgia.
Yeah, so he's at Georgia. He's doing computer science, and the computer science people said on the tour, they're like, we've had computer science longer than Georgia Tech has. So I'm like, whoa, you just like shocked me here, because I went to Georgia Tech and I was a double E in 1998. And they had just started the CS degree in 96.
Georgia had it when I was there.
I know! I was like, that's a bunch of crap. So it turns out it's true.
Yeah.
So
No, it's true. But we used to program on punch cards.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how it
Oh,
really
for sure.
was.
Yeah.
We didn't get line editors of any kind until 83 in the business school.
Okay, so I'm going to back this up. So I think some of the people listening, especially if they're in the gym, they're going to be a little bit younger than us, and they just heard you say you program with punch cards. And people take for granted, like, oh no, I can't Google that because my phone. I'm like, you have the information of the internet at the tip of your fingers, right? So if you wanted to create a program, you physically had to do what?
So you had a stack of cards, these punch cards that were, about letter size, and their columns meant something, and you put it into a special typewriter and you typed your line of code, and it would punch holes in the card based on it, and then based on its location, so you'd feed it into the reader, and the reader would go through and it would read these holes, and that would generate lines of code in binary or machine code language.
And so we could understand and do whatever.
Right. The problem was several things. If you mistype something because you can't see what you're typing, it would spit it out and you'd have to retype that one. Or, heaven forbid, you drop your cards. Oh, yeah. Now they're out of order. So you got them wet, and then you were pretty much screwed.
I think if I remember right, we would line them up and then write a line across it so you could match the lineup, and like that way if you ever dropped them, you could...
It's a good idea. We used to just number them.
Okay, yeah, I guess that would have been smarter too. I was just getting into tech, and that was going away. Yeah. So we got email right at Georgia Tech, I guess it was 92, and we're like, email? What is that going to be used for? Fast forward to now, you're like, what is an email? I guess my kids don't use email as much as I use it.
It's a generational thing.
So,
the older you are, the more likely you use email than voicemail, calls, and then texting, and then, of course, like in high school, the kids, hey, can you get so-and-so? Yeah, I'll Snapchat them.
Right. And you're so like, Snapchat? How can you, just call them? Whoa.
No. Right. Or do your kids ever text you, and then you call them right back immediately, and they don't answer?
You're like, you just texted me. You're like, I don't really want to talk. I was actually busy. I'm in a meeting. What are you doing texting me? Yeah. So...
This could be a 2-hour podcast.
It's totally fine. No, we can go as long as you want. So it's really up to your schedule. Yeah. I make these as long as they need to be, as long as they're interesting. And I think, if we're having fun and laughing, then somebody's going to have fun and laugh. My one of the Pete Brooks, his the podcast we did is one of the highest downloaded ones, and we talk about old radio, like putting in the decks and like being a DJ and all that. So it's like super old tech. I'm like, why did that? I don't know, right? So, and then another one is Cam and I talking about the 80s and like playing street football and like literally in the street. Like, I don't know. So as long as people find it interesting. But, okay, so you took that love of computers, and then eventually your became an AP computer science teacher at Sequoia.
Yes,
How did that work out?
It was interesting.
That's a huge left-hand turn or right-hand turn.
I was in the software business for almost over 22 years. Worked at a mainframe company in the 80s, Manchester Science America, based here in Atlanta, which was the number 1, number 2 vendor at the time. Then went to PeopleSoft, which is a brand it was client server, brand new technology. Was there with less than 100 employees, 17 million in revenue. 8 years later, we were 7,000 employees, 1.3 billion in revenue. It was just doubling every year. Left there because I felt like, I left MSA because I felt like our approach to client server was wrong. I left PeopleSoft because I felt like our approach to the internet was wrong, and I ended up at an internet company here in Atlanta that was approaching the internet correctly for application purposes.
And that was AOL?
No, not
just
quite.
Kidding.
Beep, beep, beep. You
Yeah,
have mail.
right. That's America Online for people. Actually, there are some members who still have an AOL.com address. I'm like, I don't even know how you get a hold of that. But
I don't either. Good. And do you have to have a modem to do
I
that?
don't know. Yeah.
So I felt like we weren't doing it right. PeopleSoft went to this company, senior vice president, strategy development, QA over time. We sold that company to ADP, but in the meantime, I was coaching youth football with my son, and then he got done, I got done, and I started as a community coach at Dunwoody High School.
Okay.
Because that's where my kids were going to go. And
were you? So okay, you were living down there.
I was living down in Dunwoody, still working. We were in the process of selling the company, and I was a community coach, and I was standing on the practice field one day early. Nobody else was there. And God spoke to me that day.
Oh, there you go.
And he said, you should be a high school teacher. And I will tell you, and I tell you this is because there was literally nobody there. And not once in my life has that thought ever crossed my mind.
Yeah.
So there was only one origin for it, and that was God. And without going into a lot of detail, there were several things that happened over the next 8 months that made this come true, and it wasn't my doing.
Yeah.
It was him.
Sure.
So anyway, that's how I got into it. Started teaching at Dunwoody for 3 years, coaching football and track. Then we moved up here and to Sequoia High School. And
is that when everybody was already graduated? So you moved
So
up
I had
here?
2 graduate, and then our third one graduated from Sequoia.
Yep.
And she needed a different environment for her, just because of the way that environment was for her. She needed a different one, and this one was fantastic for her. She flourished as a student and as a person that I don't think she would have in that other school. And anyway,
that's good that you would make a change for a kid, because sometimes we're like, whatever, you'll grow through it. But like, we are not. So my dad has a large dose of dyslexia that passed right on to me, and my older 3, no signs of it. My youngest one, everything she struggles with, I'm like, that's me.
Right. And
so we ended up going and like doing some testing or whatever, and they're like, you don't have to struggle like we used to. You can, like, we can help you. Like, this is, I mean, I was in tears in the meeting because she's literally laying out the struggles that Evie is facing that I had to not. There was no solution. It was just basically, hey, you're an idiot. And you're like, okay, I guess I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot in AP classes, but in the English side, I wasn't like remedial. Like, you can't even like write a sentence. I'm like, I know, it's crazy, right? This one reason I love ChatGPT is because it makes my horrible penmanship, my
fixes it.
sentence structure. Yes, I'm like, this is what I wanted to say. I just can't make it come out of my fingers correctly, right? Anyway, so I'm going to back up a second. This is fascinating.
So that's how I got to be an AP teacher.
Yeah.
Taking my computer science background and teaching kids.
Right. And so I'm going to go back into that one, but I didn't know there was a kind of a Paul moment on the road, right? Like Saul, Paul, hey, stop, right? So it is always fascinating to me. You can have all the logic, facts, and stories that you want, but then if you know someone or yourself has personal experience, throw it all out the window because, hey, I have a personal experience. So when I was a sales guy for test equipment throughout the Southeast, it was basically to Bell South, and there was a lot of war engagements going on, and almost everyone I sold to was a veteran of some sort. They would always ask, like, what do you think about? I'm like, hey, I wasn't in the military. What do you think? And I would just, like, that's what I think then, because they have the experience, right? And there's nothing, like, what am I going to say, right? So you get this idea, like, go be a teacher. You're like, how can I explain that? You know what? You can't. It's just, it hit me. This is what I need to do. And it's funny because you know the rationale, and there's just no real great way to like verbalize it, right? There's just, I need to go do this. So now you find yourself, you're in a teaching capacity,
right.
and they say, hey, not only be the AP computer science guy, like the total geek like side of it, but we also want you to total bro sesh and be the football coach.
It's a very unusual combination. It's a very unusual combination.
So how did that come about?
Well, I really started teaching in order to coach, right? And so, because I loved coaching football, I was good at it. I wasn't fantastic. I was good at teaching players. I wasn't necessarily good about game day execution. There are guys a lot more brilliant than me about those kinds of things. But the coaching part, teaching kids how to do stuff and do it right, encouraging them, which is kind of what you really do in the classroom anyway. And then as time went along, over the years, I found myself teaching to coach. It was the other way around, right? And the thing that really transformed me in the classroom was at the age of 57, I decided to get my master's in education, curriculum instruction.
Wow.
And I remember taking my first course, 2 of them. It started in January. It was online with Georgia Southern. And one of them, I forget what the first one was. The other one was a multicultural education. And I'd never heard of it. And my first paper I wrote, I got a 70 because you had to write in something called, I forget, APA. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what APA was. The last paper I wrote was 1984, and we looked it up on microfiche.
Right.
So,
microfiche.
My very first paper.
Nobody. So, you would go to the library and they'd have these teeny little cards. You put it in a machine that would blow it up, and you could like.
So,
guys, you don't understand what you have in the internet. Yeah.
So I'm taking this course, and I'm starting to realize how different cultures and backgrounds and economic status affects people in the classroom. And when I started realizing that, I really got engaged in that class. My whole goal was to get through the master's program was to make a B, and then the ultimate goal was becoming an assistant principal. And so, I'm sitting here learning this stuff, going, "Oh my God, I did that so wrong with those kids.
Right.
Oh, I did that okay, right?" But by the time I got done, it was a great professor helping me, and he understood what I was going through. My first paper was a 78. My last one, which was a 10-plus page one, was a 99 that he now uses as an exemplar for that subject matter.
Yeah.
Right. And so at that point, I made 2 A's, and I went, this isn't about a B anymore. This is about going perfect. And so I ended up graduating in 2 years with a 4.0, which I thought was fantastic. And that was really kind of the enlightening thing for me as a teacher. Unfortunately, I retire 3 or 4 years later. But in that meantime, it really did help me in the classroom and kind of help me in society and look around with what's going on.
Right.
And how we deal with people.
Yeah.
And the things that are wrong in our country right now.
So never stop leveling up.
Right.
Always be better. So
Always.
You mentioned something in the coaching, and we'll get to some health and fitness in a little bit, but you mentioned something in the coaching that I only recently was able to put a name to, and I listen to a lot of material, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of books, and eventually there's some nuggets in these things. So this one that I listened to brought up the concept of being a transformational coach versus a transactional coach. Transactions are, I want to win, I want you to hit this kid, I want you to, right? It's just do the thing that I said. Whereas transformational, which is, it sounds like you were getting to not just in coaching, but in teaching, is I want you, yes, to understand how to program, but you can be a better person with this too. You can learn to persevere. Yeah. And I think those are the things that really make a mentor's difference in the world. Yep.
And I think if you talk to a lot of my students, and again, I'm not trying to be boastful here in any kind.
No, this is you sharing the story, man.
Like when we're teaching program, I wasn't teaching them code programs, I was teaching them how to solve problems.
Right.
And from that, once you learn one programming language, they're all easy to learn. But at the same time, trying to instill messages to the kids about important things in life, being on time, being respectful.
Right.
The big one for me, and it was something that my wife had given me years ago, and it ended up as a poster, but it's a quote, character, I'm going to mess this up, but it basically says the true character of a man is measured by what he does when nobody's watching.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And so that was always a poster in my room.
Who are you when nobody's looking?
Yeah. And so I try to still kids. I said, if you could rob a bank and get away with it, what would you do? And that defines your character and who you are, because character is how people see you and
right.
And what you're at. And I do remember one of the last things a kid, as they were graduating, they were cleaning. He was a senior. So he was already done with me. He was cleaning out a room and he found a poster, and the poster said basically the same thing. It was integrity is doing the right thing all the time, even when nobody's watching.
Right.
He brought it to him and he said, "Hey, Coach, I found this. I thought of you."
And so your message is getting out there.
And so that's kind of what you want to do in life. Is one of the things you're going to ask me later on is something your dad taught me. Well, my dad taught me a long time ago. Teach people to be better than you.
Yeah.
And if they pass you by in rank or pay or position, that's okay, because you've done your job. You both will get what you earn and what you deserve. And to me, as humans, we need to be helping people all the time, making them a better person for themselves, and not be selfish about what we want.
Right. Well, and okay, I'm going to segue right there into some health and fitness. But so at the gym, we sat down and did a mission, vision, like purpose, whatever, who we are and what we believe in. And the statement that resonated most at the time, and still I think is true, and the people coming into the gym, it's we are happy, humble, helpful people who want to be healthy and fit now as well as in our 90s. So I find it interesting that like almost everybody in the gym, there are some new people or some people that I don't really know all that well yet, but usually there's like an energy or a feeling like, hey, we see the world similarly, and it's glasses half full. I don't know. It's help the person up. It's something like that.
You just named your podcast.
Happy, humble, helpful.
Yep.
We could probably name it there. So I do need to name it something. That's right. So we had a pre-talk, and he saw the questions ahead of time and knows that I am still trying to come up with. It's called CrossFit Garage because that's primarily the audience. That's the location. I know.
Right?
So, and that was the original intent was to help our members get to know each other. But there are people listening in Australia, and I don't even know how they found us. But hey, if we can help people, I just want to help people.
Right.
But it's helpful, happy, humble, helpful. Anyway, okay. So I got a lot of other questions, but I'm gonna use this to like drive us into some health and fitness. So you're 62.
Yes,
you are very fit. Why? What does it matter?
So, in one way, it's kind of selfish. I'm probably a little more vain than I would like to admit, and so. So
you're humble about your humility.
Yeah,
I like it.
Exactly,
my biggest quality is humility.
I got a small frame. It's not going to look good. It's not going to look good with weight on it. And number two, I've always wanted to maintain attractiveness or fitness so that I'm appealing to my wife. That
sure.
She doesn't look at me and go, he's some old.
Didn't do anything.
Like that. And also starting to realize how important it is as you get older to do something all the time. And, if high school I ran track and played football, and college I started running. I ran for years. And I just think it's important for your mental state, some release where you can get away from everything else and focus, but also for physical stuff. I read an article the other day about how important it is for seniors to do some fundamental basic weightlifting things, squat, power clean if you can do it, deadlift, because those are all the things you do every day in your life.
Right.
You're reaching for something in the cabinet, you reach down to pick up your grandchild, to hug them. These are all things that I want to be able to do up until the day that I'm gone. I don't want to sit on the couch. I don't want to get fat. I don't want to look unappealing to my wife. I love her, and it's just in general, it's just a goal of mine to stay fit.
And so the sticky why is, I think, what helps motivate people more to do the things they want. Not like, well, I don't know, I just want to go and work out, I guess. I don't know, something. But if you have the sticky why, and it took me probably like 12 years to really come up with mine, why do I enjoy and want to and desire to do CrossFit? I could do anything else or nothing, right? And it occurred to me one day that I want to be healthy and fit enough to coach my kids' in soccer. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. I'm what am I like?
Fit.
Like almost 5'8", and I am 5'8", like it's somewhere in there. Yeah, I've shrunk a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, it depends on my shoes.
Yeah.
165 pounds. I can do many freaky weird things at the gym, like a muscle up. Why do you need to do that? I don't know. I don't really care to do that too much, but do I need to? No. Do I need to lift really super heavy? Not really. But like today was a beautiful one for me. It was 20 minutes of on the rower, super warmed up. And then I lifted really good because I was like super warmed up, right? And so if you have this sticky why, I'm doing this for my wife. I'm doing this for so I can be around, so I can pick up my grandkids. I think those reasons are higher motivation than almost anything else. Or like, I guess a good one could be if the doctor says, if you don't, you are going to die.
Right.
Sometimes we find that when people come in with that, and we have, that they're just like, screw it, this is too hard. I'm like, it doesn't have to be hard. Just show up.
Right.
This is like the cheat for so how about this? Why CrossFit? Why the garage? Why not just go jog on your own?
Let me come back to that.
Yeah, sure.
Because
Go
I thought
ahead.
something else while you're talking. One of the other reasons I think why we do it, I think you and me, is we're also trying to set an example for people.
Oh yeah.
Right. That, hey, if this guy can do it, then I can do it. Right. And so one of my favorite stories is, Jeremy Morton, right?
Oh yeah.
Great guy, love him to death. He's funny as heck. We're sitting there one morning and he brought donuts. And so we're done with our workout and I was sitting there and he looked at me and he goes, look at you, dude. You got your shirt off. You're 6 years old and you're eating a donut. I want to be you. Right.
That's it.
And so.
And it doesn't have to be hard.
No.
It's just do something every day.
Now back to your question. The question was.
So why pick CrossFit versus just go jog?
So I used to jog, but I picked CrossFit because my daughter Kate went there, and every
that's
summer.
True. Yeah, we do have that story too.
That story. So every summer I'd say I'm going to do this, but summer got in the way, heat and football practice got in the way, and never did it. So she did it, and I said, fine, I'm going to do it, and that's how I got to the garage. It was kind of a thing of luck. How she got there was, I think, an act of God, but that's another story we can talk about.
Yeah.
But what I found is. In the workouts, especially once I got to know people and they got to know me, that if I had been by myself, which I did some stuff by myself, I would have stopped at this point and said, well, that's good enough.
Right.
But I find myself at a near point of exhaustion at times, knowing that I really can't do 3 more, and you'll hear somebody go, come on, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so the fear, for lack of a better word, disappointing somebody or letting the other people down, which is, I wouldn't be letting them down.
No.
I mean, they don't think that way. But the fact that they're rooting for
They're rooting for you. So you have a positive affirmation. Right. I think you can do this. You're like, okay.
Right. And all that's mind, because your body can go longer than your mind thinks. Your mind wants to give up soon. It's like, hey, no, I'm done. But your mind can go longer. And so when the people are cheering you on and encouraging you, then you are going to go longer. And I've kind of put myself to be I'm going to be the last guy that finishes every day.
Totally fine.
But somebody has to be last.
Yeah.
So it's going to be me.
And so the thing that's cool about this is, my buddy Cam just started doing CrossFit about, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And similarly, he's like, I'm the last guy. And nobody makes fun of me. That's not what it's about. We're just happy that you're here, that you're doing.
Do something. Death is winning.
That's right. Feebleness is chasing us down. Yeah. If you don't do something, it will catch you. I tell people all the time when they're like, hey, how about my health and fitness? Am I okay? I'm like, is the hardest thing you do the things you do all day? If that's the case, then yeah, you're in trouble. If you don't like sitting up, sitting down, and I'm on the computer and that's the hard stuff, yeah, there's going to be a short-lived life. So if you want to, who doesn't want to make money? Yeah, right? But I don't want to be in my family, we've got Alzheimer's and Parkinson's on both sides and the grandmas. I'm like, I don't want any of that in my family, my lifestyle. How do I get out of this? My dad has had more pieces of his body removed from cancer. I'm like, what? So somebody said, cancer eats sugar. So I think that's probably one of my motivators to not eat sugar anymore is, well, then I just won't eat it and let's see what happens. Because it's like for real in my life, right? But anyway, so yes, I am all in on that. So if you had somebody that is a peer of yours, so they're, hey, we're me and you are getting, or I guess you're already there, but empty nesters. I want to have a good life later on. Maybe I haven't done anything. I'm 50 and I haven't done anything. Could they go to a CrossFit gym and get started?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the first key is that first step, right? Is making the decision that you have to change. My father was an alcoholic through most of my high school career. And most alcoholics or people who are addicted won't stop until they reach a point where it breaks, right? And they decide they're going to change and make a change for it. And so once you decide to get off that couch and go, okay, I am going to do something, and you got to go someplace that has a plan, that have people that will help you. And then the big thing is for people to understand, and I've struggled with this for a long time because I kept trying to compete with Moises and Danny and Brad Clayman and all these guys and Kyle, and I did good for a while, but then I couldn't. Is scaling. Right. Is like I told you the other day, is You can get in there. I could do the 24-inch box all the time, but what's 3 sets at 10 that takes me this wild? But I could do 5 on the 20-inch box. Which one's better for me, right? For fitness purposes.
Yeah.
So getting people to the gym and understand that no one's going to laugh at you.
Right.
People are going to work and help you and learn to scale and do what your body tells you to do.
Right.
And then work from there.
What about, I've seen people, and I know you've worked through this, so this is a loaded question. I hurt myself. I should just give up and never do anything again.
Oh, hell no.
Right.
Oh, hell no. Change it,
Right. You can always make up something else to do.
Right. I came back from shoulder surgery. I knew I couldn't do kips, so I did a lot of just strict pull-ups and stuff like that. And when I did Murph in May, I blew through the pull-ups.
Oh, really?
I didn't do them strict. I did kip, but because I focused on getting the strength around my shoulders, straight up stuff, then the kips became very easy. I mean, I blew through those like it was nothing. Push-ups sucked, but
isn't that the weird thing? Why is the push-ups the hardest thing? It's like
because we don't do that much with it in the gym.
Even when we did them a lot, I'm like, I guess there's no way to kip in a push-up. So that's probably the reason. It's like, it is like all arm strength, and I've got little baby arms. Yeah. So
you just got to build up to it. A couple of years ago, we built up. We had a little, the month of May, we built up.
Did a lot of push-ups.
Did a lot of push-ups. And those were easier than the pull-ups at that point.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of focus.
Usually on the guys also, they're like the squats, because most guys, when they get into CrossFit, they skipped a leg day for years. And so they're like, legs, what is that part of it? You're like, it is part of it. Yeah. So interesting thing. So you had mentioned Kate and Josh. So Josh was a coach at the gym. Kate's your daughter.
Yes.
They met there. And many people will ask me, like, hey, is doing this gym business worth it? So the answer is, if I didn't do this, then there are things in life that may not have occurred. Like these two meet, have a beautiful daughter, right? My buddy Justin married his wife Wendy, and they met at the gym, and they are not meatheads, right? So they're like, that's weird that both of us are bookworms and we met at the gym, right? And there are a couple other instances, and you're like, it is fascinating. It's humbling to be part of a story that I didn't even know was occurring, right? And it's humbling. I don't know. I don't even know how to put like that part of business. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a personal experience.
Sure.
I can't explain it.
And it almost becomes like you're an influence of some kind, and you're an unintentional influencer by and everybody is by what they do and how they treat people, because you don't know what's going to happen. So back to Josh and Kate. This was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
How many CrossFit gyms are in this general area, do you think?
Oh, a lot? Yeah, so, like 15?
So Kate Googled CrossFit gyms. One showed up.
Oh, really?
CrossFit
that's weird.
Garage.
Good.
So that's the one she went to.
Okay.
Right? And that's where she met Josh.
That is crazy. And we had 4 coaches.
That's the act of God, by the way.
Yeah,
He got in there.
This is how close he wasn't about to be a coach when she showed up. So we had 4 coaches, and they split the coaching time frames up. So back then, the only way I thought I could pay coaches was like, let's have a lot of classes that I could pay you that way. Now we do different things, so we don't have to we'd have classes of 0 and 1 people all the time. Anyway, so we had 4 coaches, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, and they split up the time frames. And I was like, look, none of y'all are making really good money. You all have second jobs. I, unfortunately, need to make some choices to help you. Otherwise, you're all leaving. So I said, we had to sit down, like, 2 of you guys are going to stay and work more, and 2 of you guys are going to move on to the next thing in life. Who's got stuff and things? And so they sat around and talked about it together, right? And one went on to college, one went off to college, so there was a discussion, like, I might be going into the military, or I might move on to my next thing, right? So it was even more fascinating that, the amount of things that have to align for those things to come together is, needle in the haystack, right? All right, so that is fascinating stuff, and we can go down that road forever. So I'm going to throw out some fun things. So you retired, but you didn't retire, because if you retire, you die.
Yes.
So you started working somewhere. And where is that?
That would be Reformation Brewery.
Which is where we are right now.
Right.
So we're sitting in the back corner. They're actually open at 10:30 in the morning, and you can get beer. Actually, I don't know if you can, but there's coffee and stuff. If you ever want like just a different place to chill, you can come here and chill and drink coffee and work and whatever. Right. So are you down here in the Woodstock location mostly, or up in Canton?
Recently, I've been mostly in Canton.
Okay.
But I've got a couple shifts coming up 2 weeks from now here in Woodstock, so it'll be in both places.
And so what's a good plug? So I live here in Woodstock, and I'm thinking, hey, I'd like to go try something new. Why Reformation Brewery?
Well, one, it's a local place, right?
Sure. Run by locals, yeah.
Yeah, run by locals. The founder, one of the founders, graduated from Sequoia High School.
Okay.
Him and his wife. Sorry, baby. Hey, Melly.
Yeah, we got our dog over here too.
Yeah. And I just think that the basis of the organization was really founded on friendship and community. That he started brewing, him and that guy started brewing beer together.
Yeah, it makes sense.
People started hearing about it, and it just grew from that. It was a sense of community and belonging. And when you're here, it's really truly not about the beer, because beer is excellent, but it's really about getting together with your friends and your family and just hanging out, and talking.
Well, they have, and they're still over there. They have game night. Or
they've got trivia night on Wednesday nights. There's, it's a family. It's really a family-oriented environment. Whether you drink or not, there are non-beer drinks up there. Everything is alcohol except for the water, but so there's always something for somebody. And
and there's some food.
Yeah, so this is not actually part of Reformation. It's just a joint partner. The barbecue place, that's their own business, but. And the people that work here are just fantastic.
Smells good, though.
Okay, it smells fantastic.
So we've come here several times to do different things, whether it was board game night, or they used to do a host D&D, like one-shots and stuff. And, of course, being the nerd from Georgia Tech, I showed up. David Wallace was here with me. He's like, what? Look, you and me, yeah. This is why we came up with the idea of trying to get some guys from the gym to play with us. But, okay, so you're here because you and I both know that if you retire and do nothing, it's over.
Yes.
So you found some purpose.
Yes.
And some drive. So anything else? So you're here doing this. Any other purpose and drive that you're working on?
Always trying to keep my mind active and learning new stuff. I got to do the brewery job because you do what you love. Well, I love beer, right? So why not serve it? As I tell people, instead of teaching, now people are happy to see me. Right?
Sure.
They're glad to be there. They choose to be there, right? But I think the big thing is always engaging your mind and your body to do these things, right? So for me, like I started learning how to weld a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then
so if you need welding work, could somebody call you and be like, hey, help me out with
some basic stuff, some simple stuff.
All right, because I got a tractor with a finishing mower on the back, and I mow this massive field, and I bust the welds on it all the time. I'm like, I don't know how to fix that. I don't weld. I do a lot of things, but you need really special equipment and all that. So I'm calling you now then.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Fantastic. Yeah.
And what do you charge for welding?
Beer.
Okay. Oh, all right. Well then, I'll just have to put some credits here at the Reformation Brewery so you can just buy.
Right. That and I'm trying to learn Spanish. Just always trying to learn something new. My biggest hobby is working on cars.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
It used to be British sports cars was the big thing, and then when you reach 40 or 50 and the top's down, it's a little hotter than it was when I was 18. So,
well, also things are harder to get to. To change an oil change, to get the filter out, you've really got to either have the special part or be ambidextrous to get your arm, or double jointed or whatever to get
the stuff.
Yeah.
And so now it's the truck. So I've just finished restoring a 78 F100.
Ooh, nice.
Just
I've seen that at the gym. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so you had a post of the love of digital learning day. I just thought, it made me laugh, so I thought, okay, we're going to talk about that. So I'm guessing, is that a public school thing? Like, hey, there's a day that there's, everyone's going to learn at home, or?
Yes, so it really started pandemic time, right, where kids were doing digital stuff at home, and we were creating work that kids could do at home or they could do while they're in school. But then, so that it's not a bad concept, because one of the things that happens is schools are used for elections.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Right? And so they have to
shut everything down.
Shut it down for safety purposes. Well, they don't want to lose a day of education.
Right.
So we have these digital learning days in which teachers are required to be at the school, teachers are required to put together plans and activities for the kids, and they sleep in late and go play games. And that's pretty much what digital day is.
Their Tuesday is sleeping in, and then Wednesday is...
And Wednesday's the day we actually do the work they're supposed to do on Tuesday.
Yes, I saw that, and I was like, oh man, I can only imagine the irony of the whole thing. Really?
The frustration level pegs to the far right.
Very far. Okay, so, you had another one that I loved this. It was either buy in or get out. So it was, the post was about, what was it about? They had maybe a religious symbol up for the holidays, but then they said, it's just like Happy Holidays, not Merry Christmas, even though it's like a Jesus cross or something.
It was a Mercedes commercial that every year they use the image of Santa Claus as part of that, but then they say Happy Holidays.
Right.
And in my mind, you can't use one symbol.
You can't say Merry Christmas. Yeah. If you're going to use Santa Claus, it's Merry Christmas. You got to say it.
You got to do one or the other. You can't pull those two things together. It's frustrating in that we as a society allow that to happen.
Right. And this is This is a society thing. It's not just this one thing.
Right.
But
because we
I
don't
love
want
those
to offend
hypocrisies.
somebody by saying Merry Christmas.
Right.
We say Happy Holidays, but we use the very symbol besides Jesus.
Right.
Let's
the commercial, whatever.
The commercial symbol for Christmas is Santa Claus, right? We use that, but we don't want to say Merry Christmas. And so it's just very frustrating for me that we've gotten to that point where we're scared to offend somebody. And I don't want to offend anybody, but if you don't like me saying Merry Christmas, then don't. Yeah.
So we talk about that like in this podcast. Like I have said some things that from the 80s perspective, growing up in the 70s and 80s, the words don't mean what people mean. And I don't know if like the younger generation understands that. I just don't get their problem with certain things. And yeah, you're saying, hey, you got to be, I'm like, I mean no ill intent. It's just a word.
I think we've reached a point where people want to be mad. People want to be offended. People, and I say this as a general statement, but it's like people are looking for something to worry about that's not them.
Right. Like, which is why we threw out there happy, humble, helpful. If you're happy, like, if you said whatever, I don't care.
Stay within your skin.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So I told my kids, we did a podcast, and they're like, hey, can you say those things? I'm like, look, if they don't like what we're saying, then don't listen. I mean, they're going to...
That's your choice.
Yeah, they're going to hear the love. If they know we love them, and yes, I said, whatever, and it's just too bad. If they're going to choose that, then we probably don't need them listening to those things. So, but I love hypocrisies, and I love to know that they're there, even in myself, when people don't know that they're there, right? So like my daughter must be home at midnight. My sons can stay out past midnight, like, right? They're like, why does that? I'm like, well, they probably are driving, like, right? So I'm like, yes, I don't know. I'm making one up there. They're all older, so it doesn't matter. And Evie's too young; she can't stay out till midnight. But you find these hypocrisies in sometimes personal experience. Makes it not a hypocrisy to you, but on the outside, maybe it is, right? So anyway, I just love unraveling those things like, hey, so you said that, but you've done this. Tell me about that. And they're like, oh, dang it, right?
I love seeing them on TVs because I'll actually start talking to the TV or sometimes yelling to the TV, and my wife will say, they can't hear you. I said, I know that, but one day they will. One day they're going to stop in the middle of that thing and go, listen, we just heard something from Jeff. We're going to change it.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Right. I wonder if that's interesting. Will they be able to interactive talk?
They'll ignore us. It'd be too much.
It would be too much. You'd have to narrow down your audience so much to hear any of that noise.
And it'd take them off what they want to say.
Yeah. So we had talked about this before we hit go, that the internet and the speed of communication has changed so much. Right. Like we are literally, hopefully, giving somebody, maybe in the Woodstock area or I guess in Australia, because like I said, people are downloading from there, something to laugh about, to smile about, to give hope about, to maybe give fitness a first try. And it's just me and you on a recorder. Right. And it didn't go through NBC or editing squad or whatever. We made it, we produced it, we put it out there. And as tanks are rolling through Russia, you said on Reddit, you're like watching and listening and hearing things in real time.
Right.
And that's just, the amount of communication we could have is amazing. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Right. So I got service Vern and Josh, so I saw that one on there. Let's see. Yeah, you talk about your shoulder and okay, so ChatGPT. Let's talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
You hate it? As a teacher?
Because I'm kind of old school, right? So, going back to my master's program, I realized that kids learn different ways. Right? We grew up very, very middle-class white norms, where you sat in the classroom, the teacher lectured, you wrote notes, didn't ask questions, and you memorized stuff. But things you can't learn that way anymore. Kids are different, cultures are different, socioeconomic situations are different. So you have to adapt to the teaching. But the whole goal in education is to learn something, right? Mm-hmm. So, and how you learn that and retain that for your future determines, I think, how well you can do in your life. like one of the biggest frustrations for me is because of the way we went through No Child Left Behind, where we introduced this accountability and standards for schools, that we ended up with standardized testing.
Right.
That we ended up gearing our schools to how well we do on the test versus how well we're retaining the information that we're learning. You know, kids in high school, we're programming, and I draw these things. See what they are, right?
Yeah, parentheses.
Yeah, they don't know what they are.
Oh no, they don't.
Because they don't have to. They don't. They're not learning necessarily. The ones who want to learn it, the ones who don't, aren't learning these things for retention. So my fear in ChatGPT and with Google, yes, it's all there, and yes, you can use it, and there is some good to it, is that it will be used to bypass the process of learning,
right?
Which is fundamental to survival in my life, right? So when your brain stops and when your body stops, then what happens? I think you stop.
Yeah, that is like what we're doing now. Like, we want to be healthy and fit later on, not just for our bodies but our minds. And if, like, the purpose, if we're not doing and learning and growing, or moving, squatting, standing, and whatever, then it's going to end.
But I think, like in your example that you're talking about with your struggles with writing and reading and stuff like that, that using a tool like that to get your words correct, I think is fine. In fact, I listened to a podcast yesterday where they were talking about that. Students were talking about it and professors were talking about it.
Okay, interesting.
It was an interesting both sides of view of the topic. And some students like, I use it for this just to kind of get me going a little bit and get the basis down. One was saying, I just do it all the time because this course doesn't matter to me. It's not what I'm majoring in. I just want to get through it and make a grade. And so
that's an interesting one. I didn't think about that.
If you're using it to make a grade, I disagree with it. If you're using it to enhance the learning and retain that learning, then I think it can be good. My bigger issue, and I'm going off topic here.
No, it's totally fine. This is what we do. Tangents and me are friends.
Is AI, I can tell that, is AI in general.
Yeah.
I think we're at a point of abyss right now where if we're not careful where we go with AI, I think it's going to be fundamentally damaging to our society. My examples will be AI can now generate photographs.
Yeah.
And so in this politically charged world we have, there are going to be photographs that are going to be generated and modified through AI that are going to be put into social media.
Right.
And then that in itself is going to start off a whole set of beliefs that aren't true.
Yeah.
And it's going to get to the point if we're not careful that we don't realize the difference between reality and AI.
Yeah.
And that's scary to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's something to do with you had mentioned. I'm going to tie together something you had mentioned earlier in this, and then and here is character is who you are when nobody's looking. No longer if you go back, I don't know, 500 years ago, you're like, hey, Jeff is going to build me a chimney. Should I trust Jeff? They're like, yes, you can trust his word. Right? His character and his word were together. We shook hands. I'm like, Jeff, I'll go into a contract with you, whatever. There was no contract. It was like, you're going to build me this and I'm going to pay you. And we just shook on it, right?
And by the way, at 5'8", 500 years ago, you would have been a tall guy.
That's probably true. Maybe almost 5'8". But our word and our actions meant a whole lot more. Maybe because our world was smaller. I only knew the 50 people around me. And so it really mattered. And if somebody if there was a husband beating his wife, the men took care of that, right? And so, right or wrong, but it's probably right. You should never beat your wife. But this idea of you can't believe it, or you're maybe what is it, the blue check mark on Twitter? Like, I'm verifying that this is me and who I am and what I said and did. So I hope there is some way to bring us back to I don't need a contract. And you put a picture of me that isn't true, that's okay, because it's verifiable of who I am. Like, somehow there's a way to maybe not a social score. I hate the idea of that, but they know me, right? I'll give you an example. Like in the gym, things have happened and I have to make choices as a business what to do. And I usually don't explain it to everyone because I don't want to make it a thing. And so people have said, I can't believe you did that. You are horrible. Like, you've known me for 10 years. Have I ever did anything, what you're saying? They're like, no. I'm like, right? So you can look at your character, but people don't these days, right? And so they can, I think there was something they did recently where a interviewer like faked an interview with another government official and something like really bad came out, but they didn't know that it was like an AI generated whatever. I'm like, this is crazy. So you literally cannot believe what you see anymore. They can put videos together with sounds, and it's, me and you talking, but it's not me and you talking at all.
Right. There was one that came out, and there's also, in the rush to publish stuff and get it out there and get viewers, there's a lack of fact checking.
Yeah.
A prime example was several years ago. There was a video of a dog and a pig, where the dog rescues the pig in a pond or something like that.
Sure.
And it went viral, and even the major NBC, ABCs, you guys were all showing it. Well, it was generated, it was fake. but nobody
Thought
checked
to ask.
it. Yeah, they were too worried about their ratings and how they're going to get it out, and
yeah,
I sound like a grouchy old man.
No, well, so I think there's a good aspect of, I do find myself saying back in my day a lot, and I'm only 50, so I can only imagine like the 40-year-olds probably feel it even more because stuff moves so quick. I think coming back to community and small groups like this Reformation Brewery,
right,
and Woodstock, it's real people, right? I think like when I do my lead calls, so I've got some tasks I do every Tuesday. There's 2 hours worth of CrossFit Garage work, and I do it. I don't let the automation do it. I do the texts, I do videos, I do phone calls, and I get lots of like, hey, I'm not interested, but wow, can't believe you did that on your own.
Right.
Like, well, I guess you could probably fake it now, but if I usually do a video with like, hey Jeff, it's Andy. I said your name. Well, I guess you can fake them now, but I can't fake that now. But anyway, so I think maybe going back to closer groups and more trusted relationships is possibly a outcome of this.
Right. Well, I think a lot of that starts with face-to-face, person-to-person communication.
Oh, yeah.
I had to meet with the HRLA from Reformation because I kind of wanted to explain what my goals were for working here time-wise and what they needed out of me, right? And I could have gone through Slack, the tool they had, or I could have done through email, but it's such a cold and impersonal way to do it, and I know a lot of times in conversations it generates more questions. And so I just kind of kept saying, hey, can we meet in person? And finally, I think yesterday morning, we sat down here and we talked, or two days ago, and we talked, and she understood everything I needed, and I understood how they did things and what they wanted, and it was a great way to do it. We used to have a guy
in person.
The last company I worked at, we had two young guys that started. They were 26 when they started it. I was 40 when we joined it. So myself and the two other guys were the old guys, right?
Yeah.
And they were 10 years older than me. But the way they wrote emails at times seemed to be challenging or explosive, right? And I wasn't used to their style of writing, and I would sometimes get kind of mad. And then finally one day I realized that, well, that's their style. Because
right.
I would go to them and say, hey, explain this to me. And what they were saying in person was totally different than what I was reading. And so
right.
I just kind of learned to.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, right? Yeah. There is a fact that, as you said earlier, kids are growing up different. Their brains are different. It's a different world, right? And so it's up to us to kind of learn that stuff. So let me ask you this one. This is near and dear to my heart. I got one kid in CS, computer science,
mm-hmm.
and another kid looking to go into computer science. So with ChatGPT, computer science degreed jobs, MIS degrees jobs, is that a good thing or is it going to be a bad thing?
For those jobs?
Yep.
Oh, I think it's still a good thing.
Good thing. Cool.
There's not enough people, especially in minorities, whether it be race or females in the world of IT, whether that's hardware to software, cybersecurity, all those things.
Right.
There's not enough people, because think about this, Andy, pick one moment in your life today that's not involved with technology.
Yeah, no.
Has there been? No.
Maybe when I was sleeping?
Yeah, but true.
I don't have any, I intentionally do no Fitbits or sleep watches or whatever. Right. Yeah.
So all these things, everything we do and everything we're going to do, it requires technology, and there's not enough people to do that.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage, because one of the things I used to tell my students all the time was, and I wasn't trying to put down other programs at the school, but mine was one of the few programs that you could take and then going forward could ultimately produce a career that allows you to take care of yourself and your family.
Right.
And that's why I think probably 60, maybe 65, 70% of the kids ended up going to college majoring CS because they saw the value of that.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I tell my kids is, they're like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm like, look, dude, I don't even know what I want to do. I'm an electrical engineer from Georgia Tech that has a rental business and has a gym and a couple of failed businesses. I mean, who knows what we want to do? Learn as much as you can. Get the hardest degree you can possibly get. Bank that money. Move yourself from W-2 to passive 1099, passive income as fast as you can. Okay, so another gym thing. How's your progress on the bar muscle up?
Slowed. Yeah, so
I know we forgot to do videos of that. I was looking through my stuff, like, we were supposed to talk about that.
So I was doing well on it, and then somewhere, in April or something like that, I started getting some soft tissue issues.
And then stop. Yep.
And then right, and so I stopped doing that, and then.
So let me ask you this: so you're saying you should listen to your body?
Makes sense, except when it comes to Murph, and then when it comes to Murph. You throw everything
Everything
out.
out your door, yeah.
And I can tell you exactly. So it was tight, right? It was tight. I'm sitting there, and I'm literally, and I broke at 5, 10, 15, right?
Yep.
And I'm on push-up number 150,
yeah.
Right? 151, and I'm pushing, and they're getting hard. So as I'm pushing, I'm kind of popping at the top,
right.
And my right shoulder just locked up.
Oh, geez, yeah, you don't want that.
And I finished everything. Didn't hurt pull-ups, didn't hurt running, didn't hurt squats. Just I had to modify how I was doing my push-ups.
So for those that don't know, Murph starts with a mile. Yeah. It's 100 push-ups, or 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups,
300 air squats,
and then
a mile.
One more mile. And sometimes people wear vests.
Yes.
I
was going to because I did all of our half Murphs we did with a vest.
With a vest.
But again, because of the soft tissue was, things I was struggling with, I knew I couldn't do that, and it was important to me to finish the whole thing. I did finish it. I was in pain, and so for the past month and a half, I've been doing some PT and doing some other stuff to take care of it, and really just when I get in the gym, like I didn't do thrusters today.
Right.
I worked on these exercises to kind of help.
And that's what you should do. So this is something that I find interesting. That like if you go to Lifetime, this will never happen. They really don't want you to show up because you cost them more money. They charge just enough that it slides through your bills, and you're like, I'll keep paying for it, and they never want you to show up. Whereas at a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Garage here in Woodstock, or a CrossFit gym anywhere, there are coaches that literally want to coach you. So we want you to come in, and today was 20 minutes on the rower or the bike,
right,
and then do something. The something you could have done was thrusters, or do anything else that you want to do, right? So accessory work, or a skill work, right? I want to work on pull-ups or handstand walks or whatever. So we want people to continually push themselves, to continually grow, to learn new things. It was a beautiful thing when we did the 2 months of skill gains, and part of it was climbing the rope. And I had several women who have never even thought, I'm going to climb that rope, go up some. Now, it might have been only like one like lift or one pull or whatever, but it's still, that's progress up the rope, right? They're making
something.
And it's brand new, right? Continue to learn.
One thing that I remember about, one of the things you told me a long time ago, not a long time ago, you didn't tell me directly, but you said this. You said, CrossFit isn't going to make you bulky. CrossFit is going to make you what your body's supposed to be.
Yes.
And I think people need to understand that is I'm never going to have this huge, I don't have a frame for that, right? But I can be fit, I can be lean, I can look, the way I want to look. And not worry about it.
That's right.
So I think that's important for people.
No, that is true. It's if you look at the people at the games, they are actually not doing CrossFit. So the CrossFit games, they don't do CrossFit. What they do is the sport of fitness, and they are mostly increasing their strength, increasing their engine, and you can do just those things. CrossFit is going to do that, but just slower. And they're working on all the things they're bad at, because you can't be bad at anything. Right. So they are intentionally leaning into two areas, and then they're the thing that they're not good at. Whereas we don't really. Yes, we want to grow new skills and be able to do things, but we want fitness over time,
right, and
we want our bodies to become athletic. What does an athletic body look like? It just looks like somebody who's got decent definition.
Right.
And if I guess really it's not a look. It's if you told me, let's go climb Blood Mountain, I could look at you and say, yes, let's go do it. And we're not worried about it.
Which is why it's a very difficult climb.
Yes. A buddy of mine, we did a podcast on the way up, and then we started doing it. We kept doing it as we climbed the mountain, and we were like, okay, I'm losing breath, so we need to wrap this thing up because I'm panting into the microphone.
And I'll tell you some fitness shaming that occurred was Kate, my daughter, was almost 9 months pregnant, and she and Josh hiked Blood Mountain.
She's like, Dad.
And she's like, and people are looking at her going, oh my God, I can do this too.
Yeah, right? If you can do, that's right. And so, okay, next thing, and this is, I think, part that some people miss, on the very pinnacle of the pyramid of health and fitness. So the bottom base layer is nutrition, so eat right. And the top is play new sports. You either played or play. I hope you're going to do it again because I want to be your caddy in two gun. What is two gun?
Well, it's a variation of two guns. So two gun is just straight up shooting.
Okay.
So this is what they call tactical games. And so tactical games are a combination of functional fitness along with two gun shooting. So pistol and rifle. And it occurs over a weekend, over 2 days, 3 events per day. The events can range in size from 15 minutes, AMRAP basically, to we've had one that was a 5-mile ruck, one that was a 2.5 hour AMRAP type thing, where you were running, walking, doing these at different stations, doing things. So the intent here is, and most of the people who participate are former military or current military or law enforcement officers. But the intent is to get your heart rate up, to get going, and then to have to stop and control yourself.
Kind of like a biathlon in the Winter Olympics?
Yeah, very similar concept, right? Where you have to stop, do this activity, stop, fire, do the activity again.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it's more than what I thought it was.
Oh yeah,
And how would I find this on the interweb?
Search Tactical Games. Yeah. And they have one about every month. It's all across the country, yeah.
Okay. Because I do those adventure races, which is basically what you're talking about, minus the guns. The thing is, guide yourself through the woods. So, hey, you're tired. Be able to look at a map and not be stupid. Right. You're like, okay.
Here's a compass, here's a map.
And usually the people who win, well, yes, they're very, their engines are very good. They're very athletic, but also they make the least stupid choices. Like the route choices are really good, and they get from here to there quickly. But
and the tactical games is it was difficult for me. I think I didn't finish last the first time because there were like 3 people who dropped out because of injury. But the second time I did it, I finished, I think, 5th out of 9 or 8 in my age group. So again, and I know where I did wrong on stuff, but and I think there's a post out there where the first one I did was I was thanking CrossFit and CrossFit coaches for getting me to a level of fitness where you're farmer carrying 90 pounds on either side, you're carrying a sandbag over your head around 50 meters, scaling a wall. I mean, just all these, pulling a weight, sitting down.
That sounds awesome.
I mean, it was just all kinds of
Is it wrong that this sounds cool to me? Or is that like, I mean, somebody out there, hopefully the people listening to this, when you hear something like this, you're like, yes, me too.
And for me, I know I'm never going to win this thing.
Yeah, whatever.
It'd be cool because it got a cool trophy, but I'm never going to win.
I can buy you that trophy.
Yeah, fine, okay, perfect. But to me, it's again going back about doing something. It's about competing, and most importantly, about finishing something. Right? I remember the very first one I did, the very last event. Gosh, we had to drag this plastic canoe thing down this thing, up the hill, around this thing, bring it back down, drag it, go shoot sideways, and we had to do like 3 loops, right? And I just remember coming off the last one, near exhaustion, and my wife has a picture where my arms are up in the air, right? Because it's like, I did it, man. I survived. Something that, and sometimes in these events that we were doing, that literally, like one of the first ones, we had a sled, right? Mm-hmm. And they had, it may have been 90 pounds. I'm not sure how much, 90 pounds on it with a rope. And you had to sit down, pull it towards you, get up, extend the rope, pull it to you.
Oh, wow.
Probably about 50 meters, and then fire a rifle weapon, drag it back, and do that like within as many times as you can within this time frame. But I remember sitting down and grabbing the rope and going, I don't know if I can move this thing. I've never done this before.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of fear, I don't know. And then boom, you're kind of doing it. You go, I got this. And so it's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. And those are the similar things like in these adventure races. I got a buddy who I normally race with. He does the normal type of training. And he's always like, I can't believe you can race for 12 hours because I know you don't run more than a mile in a week. I'm like, it's true. And then the coming up race, I got a guy that I'm racing with, Jason Long, and he's like, hey, my plantar fascia, my foot is not great. I'm like, that's totally fine. He's like, we may have to walk the whole race. I'm like, whatever. Right. I don't care. It's an adventure. This is going to be fun, and we'll just shortcut things, and we're going to finish. Yeah. So Evie and I did a race, my youngest one, and she said, hey, I don't really care for the bike on the trails. That's a little scary. I said, that's fine. We'll just cut it out. And a little tears inside of me, but I'm like, I want her to come back, so let's do that. Turns out, because she made wise choices, and the race was kind of long, and people misjudged it, she and I ran as solos, even though we kind of ran together, but she won solo female.
Wow.
I'm like, what the heck? And we came in 2 hours early, but most people, tried to do way too much, and it just, they ruined their time and their score. But yeah, so finishing, getting it done, making wise choices, yeah, it's totally cool. But I'm going to have to look that one up. I'd love to. Do you have to bring your own guns, or do they give you? Okay, so you have
so you're doing all this with weight vest, 15 pounds.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that might ruin me there. I have a problem with too much weight in my knee.
Yeah.
So I always pack really light on the adventure races. Okay, so we talked about something this morning. This is off track, but it's near and dear to my heart. I have started on, I don't know when this will come out, but for us in real time, it was Monday that I decided no more caffeine, no more coffee. And today's day 5.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I only had one headache time, and it was mild.
You don't seem any more jittery than normal.
Yeah, so jittery. I have drunk enough coffee to get the jitters, but the yesterday's workout, I felt totally gassed. Like, oh no, yeah, the caffeine did me something right. But today's workout, I actually got a PR on.
Right.
And
congratulations.
I felt pretty good. Yeah, this is kind of cool. So 15 years into CrossFit, I can still eke out a little bit here and there. I'm like, it works, right? So you and me have the same thing where caffeine doesn't actually wake us up.
Correct.
You could drink coffee at 9 p.m. and go right to sleep.
Yep.
That is nuts. I've never met anyone else besides you that has that same thing, because it doesn't make me want to go to sleep, but it doesn't wake me up. Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
And so you said you went from two cups in the morning to now decaf in the evening.
Well,
but that was for cholesterol, not for sleepiness.
Well, it was for blood pressure.
Blood pressure.
But I was probably drinking like 4 cups a morning. I actually cut down my intake. I used to have a coffee pot, Mr. Coffee, right?
Yeah.
Make 8 cups, right? And I times very frugal. I didn't like to waste it, so I would drink it, right? Yeah. Well, then staying at our nephew's house, he had a Keurig.
Oh yeah, by the
right, the little single cup. And so I found when I went to that, I actually ended up drinking less coffee.
Interesting.
And then just kind of advice to the doctor says, listen, let's tame some blood pressure stuff. Let's take some things away. I already eat well. I very seldom eat sweets. I try to use much fiber and do stuff like that today. Fast food is not, at most maybe once a month if we're traveling out of convenience. I might have a Coke once a month. It's just not part of my.
I like that.
My diet. So anyway, I just kind of went to 2. She said, hey, go cut it in half.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, if you can do 4, do 2 and 2.
Right. And they do say there's some good stuff with coffee and caffeine and stuff, but you weigh those things out inside of you. For me, it was addiction. I don't like to be pressured because of my insides want it. Like, I need that caffeine fix. I don't like that feeling.
A lot of where I think you and I are right now in our lives and how we feel and how we look is about moderation.
Yes.
Right. If eat in moderation, drink in moderation,
Yeah. I would love to be more moderate, but my personality is.
You can't be.
I wanted to get off of sugar. And so the only way I really found I could do it is I eliminated grains, because pancakes are a delivery system for my syrup, right? I'm like, I got to stop eating bread because that is how I trigger myself. So I had to remove 2 things to get rid of the one thing.
Right.
I have a problem with,
pancakes with strawberries.
So weirdly, after this long of not eating sugar, I can't even eat most fruit. It's too sugary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so even like a handful of blueberries, they're like, oh, that won't spike your glycemic index. It's like juices, like the glands squirt. I'm like, I can't even do it. So in my smoothie in the morning, it's about a thumb's worth of banana that goes in.
That's a visual I can't get out of my head now.
That's cool. I'll have to delete that somehow. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna hit a couple things in here. I got normal questions that I ask everybody. So this is you get to throw out some wisdom. So this part isn't wisdom, but what was the first job you ever had?
Probably cutting grass when I was right before ninth grade. Get enough money to buy a Canon 35 millimeter camera. This was 1975. So
And so you were buying a camera, and what did you put in the camera to take the pictures with?
that would have been 35 millimeter film.
And what? And so to get a picture developed, yeah, you guys are so blessed with. Did that shot come out? I don't know.
I've got to wait for it to be developed. How long did it take? 4 days. Okay.
So that's a good experience in the 1099 world, just getting straight cash and thank you very much. Taxman, I don't know what that is.
I've done a lot of interesting ones. I did, after that, I was actually kind of a maintenance, at the age of 15, maintenance guy for a guy in Macon who owned some Victorian homes that he'd converted to apartments.
Okay.
So I did maintenance for homes. Side story, he married Kathy Walden. Kathy Walden was the ex-wife of Phil Walden, who was the founder of Capricorn Records in Macon, which their primary label supporters of Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, and Otis Redding.
Right.
And at 16, I was a bartender at his reception for their wedding.
Nice. So we're back to it.
Yeah,
we're back to full circle. Full circle.
Pizza cook in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've always been busy.
Since I was 15.
Yeah. So one of my old bosses, Pete McCauley, he would say, if you want something done right, give it to a busy man. And they would load me up on stuff. I'm like, well, I guess that's nice that you feel like but I'm really busy and I need a break. Someone help. So we did the health and fitness journey. We did why you picked CrossFit, why the garage, your daughter Kate. So how about this? What is something that CrossFit has done for you or helped you get back?
Ooh, that's a doozy. I think it's given me somewhat of a sense of purpose to a large degree, with that purpose being going back to our discussion about why do this at our age, that ability to know that, in 5, 10, 15 years I can sit on the ground with my grandkids and get up and not sound like I'm a squeaky door. Right.
We may use the but we can still do it.
We can still do it. So I think that's probably, and I didn't realize I was lacking that.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, it was probably that, and it opened up a group of friends I never would have had. Right.
Yeah. That's true.
One of my best buddies, and there's Moises.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
He and I are like buds. We work out. I miss the
now
5
that you're not at the 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But there's a beauty in not waking up at 4:30. So is there anybody in your life that could use this? You're like, oh yeah, it doesn't have to be here in Woodstock, but hey, if I could tell people to go do something, anybody, I'll make sure I try to either tag them in the podcast or we'll just deliver it to them via our interweb.
There are, but I don't want.
Okay, we'll skip that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because then I may be shaming them some
way.
Sure,
no, don't shame them. It's you want their health. You want their health.
I just want people that are listening to this is that, if you're not there, take that first step. Go do something. Go try it and modify as you need to get it done. It's better to do something small than to do nothing at all.
I'll even offer this out to any of your buddies who are listening. I mean, anybody who's listening. But if you need help picking a CrossFit gym, if we live in Woodstock, then I would say, hey, here, unless your goals are, I want to go to the games. That's not us. I can help you find a gym that would fit you for that. But if you live elsewhere, we can look up on the internet and see what gyms are around. And usually, by reading their website, I can kind of get an idea of who they are. So for example, if they're a 1,000 square foot gym, okay, it's probably going to be tight and hard to do. That may not be what you want. Or if they've got like 9 classes a day, but it's the one guy, the owner, doing all 9, well, he's going to be burnt out and tired. He may not want. So there's some things that you can kind of lean away from or things you can lean into. And I'd be happy to help people find a gym that works for them in Topeka, Kansas, or wherever they live.
One of my coworkers, who's at the gym now, was Stuart.
Oh, okay,
right?
yeah.
So Stuart's one of your
early birds.
Early birds, and has one of the highest attendance rates.
Oh yeah.
Of anything. Well, he was at school. He and I worked together, and he says, I really like what you're doing. I really admire it. He says, I really want to get into it. I used to do it all the time. And we kind of talked back and forth, and I said, well, why don't you just start? He goes, well, I got to get ready. I got to get in shape to go do it. And I went, no, you don't.
Yeah.
I said, get your ass and go.
Right. This is something that I hear all the time is I need to be fit to do CrossFit. I'm like, no. It's a shortcut to fitness, Because we use functional movements executed at high intensity. It's the common things. Yeah, it's the common things we do all the time. It's stand up, sit down, lift this, move that. And you can scale and modify for anything. So anybody, almost anybody can do it. Now, I think I've said this before in podcasts. I've got in my immediate-ish family, I've got a sister who owns a gym in Florida, another sister who coaches in Tucker, and then I have a brother and sister who don't particularly care for the feeling of CrossFit. So I guess that's three of us that love it, 2 of us that aren't. So it's not necessarily for everyone, not going to be a fit, but it could be. You don't have to be limited. We had people in wheelchairs.
And don't view these CrossFit Games athletes as what you are. And I think a lot of people have a bad impression of CrossFit is because they see these people in the games. They're beautiful athletes. Their physiques are amazing. And they've got that KT tape all over their body. And so people have this impression that it destroys your body. And it can.
That does. Yeah. That will leave scars. That is not fitness or healthy.
Right.
That is a sport. Yeah, for sure.
And so if you do it right and you do some, are there going to be injuries? But there's going to be injuries in almost anything that you're riding a bike. I have buddies who do mountain biking, right? Hit a stump, fall over, dislocated hip.
That's the worst. Yeah.
Just stuff like that.
Kinetic impact is hard to get over. So I had the same buddy who did the. So we did some sprints. You were doing the sprints with us? Did you? Yeah.
I may have just been working on my shoulder.
So those sprints, I don't sprint very much, and I had 2 weeks of warming up to the sprint. Like it's supposed to be a slow getting there, and then on the last Thursday, 2 weeks into it, we would try to open the doors a little bit more. And I wrote in the notes, like, be super cautious, be super cautious. So my buddy calls me up and he's like, hey, I hurt my hamstring. I'm like, did you do the 10, 100 meter sprints? Just kind of making a joke because that's what we were doing. And he's like, yeah, we did. I'm like, oh man. I said, how many people in your gym went down? He's like, 10 of us that I know of. And so sprinting can be,
right.
But I said, so would you rather go back and never have done it? He's like, no, I'll take the injury and the lesson because what I have gained from what I am doing is like I can go out and kayak or climb the mountain or whatever. My resting heart rate has dropped. I've got off some medication, whatever it is, right? So yeah, if you listen to the coach and you're smart, you won't probably hurt anything. But if you want to go to the games, you're probably going to hurt a lot of stuff.
Listen to your body.
Yeah, listen to your body. So what excites you most about the future?
Kind of unknown. For me, because it's what, and like my wife and I picked up something. So one of the things, I don't know if you're ever going to get to this question. If you're not, I'm going to go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, jump in it.
So advice that, like maybe my father.
Yeah. I thought you said something earlier, but
which was about teach people to be better than you.
Yeah.
And even if they pass you in pay, promotion, or position, you've done your
totally
job.
Fine. Yeah.
The other one was learn something. If you learn something new every day, then it's a good day, right? So my wife and I picked up paddleboarding 2 weekends ago at the beach. And so we've gone out and bought paddle boards, and so we're going to start doing that. But it was funny.
Did you just tell me this? Because I feel like somebody just told me that the other morning.
Oh.
You and your wife?
Oh, I may have told you. I don't remember.
Maybe, yes.
Memory.
Yeah, I know, 50. I'm like, man, this story sounds very familiar. I wish I had written it down.
But it was interesting because she sent a text to our oldest nephew and niece who live down in Florida because they've got some paddleboard stuff down there. And she says, hey, we'd like to come visit. But we're still trying to figure out this Jeff retirement thing and how to do planning. And that's right now is the unexpected. She's still working some. Okay. And so our times are a little different and I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And it doesn't really bother me. And even in all the jobs that I've had or I've made moves to a new company that was a risk move that turned out. I always had my faith to believe that I'm going to go where God wants me to go. And as long as I listen, and don't try to do it myself, I'm going to be okay and have faith that I'm going to be able to do what I want to do, and it's going to be there for me. Yeah. So I don't worry about the future for me, right? And so
well, you're sitting in a good place, healthy, having fun, have some money, have family, have friends. I mean, this is what we would all want, right? Yes. My dad retired recently, and I said, hey, I have done a lot of research on this because it's near. I mean, I'm 50, right? What happens to us as we retire? And you need purpose, and it can't be. It's usually something of where I'm giving back. Otherwise, we fail. We go. He's like, well, I want to scuba dive. I'm like, that's not purpose. That's a vacation. So he's doing all right, but it is something that needs to be done.
Which we're actually, my whole family is certified scuba.
Oh, really?
Again, wanted to learn something.
Yeah, try something new, right?
We did.
Did you see that I must have clicked scuba somewhere, or Facebook knows it, because now they're always giving me this guy's this little tube and this face masky thing, and you just jump in and now you've got your own little tank. I'm like, I do like that.
It's very invasive.
Yeah.
Search for something in Google and shows
and they know what you're going for. Any books or podcasts that you listen to or recommend?
The podcast I'm kind of hung up now is National Park After Dark.
Okay.
And it's these two ladies who start off telling stories, kind of there's a lot of podcasts that are about crime and sadness and murder and stuff like that. And this is kind of some of that, of things that have occurred in the national parks, right? And they're interesting stories. Some have bad endings, some are good endings. But it combines those kind of stories and also history of the national parks.
Okay.
Because one of the goals that my wife and I have is to get a travel trailer and just start hitting the national parks and state parks and stuff like that. So that's really, and I'm not a real big podcast guy, but that's
one you're on.
That's
Any
one
particular book you would recommend to your students at any time, or besides the how to program in Pascal? I don't know if they program in that anymore.
No, they don't.
Okay. Sorry, I just dated myself right there.
You did. Go Python.
Yeah, Python. There you go.
Let's see. I'm actually reading two books right now. But the one I really enjoyed recently was called the Empire of the Summer Moon.
Okay.
And it was about the last Comanche chief.
Oh.
And he was the son of a Comanche chief and a white woman who had been kidnapped. Her name was Parker, and she was kidnapped in 1835 or something like that. And most of the book is really not about him, but it's about what Indian life was like and what Texas and Oklahoma and those areas were like in the 1800s, early 1800s. So it's very, very much a history, but also what we did to that environment and to those people.
Oh yeah.
And it's an eye opener.
Oh
for
yeah.
you, and it's a fascinating book. The other one that I would recommend is one. It's thick. It's called The Lies My Teacher Told Me.
Okay, very personal. I like this one.
So this history professor has gone through and looked at textbooks over time, and he looks at what our publishers tell us about our history and what the truth is.
Oh, that'd be fascinating.
Prime example, people got upset because we're taking down Christopher Columbus's statue.
Sure.
Christopher Columbus was responsible for introducing slave trade.
Okay.
Right. He was one of the contributing factors to introducing taking people out of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And
bringing them over.
enslaving them. Right. And so there's a lot of discussion on the history of this country, what the truth is, whether it be about racism or about slavery or about different people that we may admire because of the way the textbooks are written.
Sure. Well, to the victors go the spoils, right? Yeah. Or history is written by the victor.
So those are probably the ones that have kind of stuck in my mind as much.
Yeah.
I sent that last one to a friend of mine who had some ideas about certain things that he and I were disagreeing about, and afterwards he said, this has made me think a lot.
Yeah. That is I love doing that. Sitting down with somebody, it's like, look, we may not change each other's minds, but let's talk to each other and just understand. I love that, but it's so hard these days to get people to I don't care if you believe my way or don't believe my way. I'm interested in hearing, right? But it's hard to find those people to have the conversation with.
The biggest thing I think we have to do, this is a side note.
No, I love side notes. It's tangents. That's what it could be called, as tangents with Andy.
Especially in the political charged world we're in today.
Oh, yeah.
Is that I got this thought running through my head for weeks now, but in our discussions with people, we need to remove the word Republican and Democrat from the discussion. We need to remove the phrase, well, what about so-and-so?
Yeah.
And just sit down and talk about the facts that we know, right? And in order to have a good discussion, but it's difficult.
Well, I think there's this thing called the smallest or the shortest political test around or something like that, and it's like 9 questions or whatever you do. And almost everyone ends up being like a libertarian because in general, people don't want people to hurt people or mess with people or whatever. Just leave me alone, right? So yeah, the labels don't even really, anyway. Okay, let me move on. So 2 questions. If you had the billboard that's right in front of our gym and you could put anything up on it that you wanted, doesn't have to be health or fitness, or just a message to all the hundreds of thousands of people who drive on 92, what would you tell people? Programming rules? No.
Be nice, right?
That's interesting. You're not the first one to say that. That's fascinating. That there's many times when I ask that, it's
be nice.
Be nice.
Be respectful.
Yeah. It costs nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't. None of these things that we can do to make ourselves better cost us anything.
Yeah.
Be nice. Be respectful.
So something
smile.
on that I've heard and I started doing is as I walk into the grocery store, just to be nice, if somebody's unloading their cart, I'll just wait there and I'll just take their cart. And I usually don't touch their food because they're like, I don't know them. But I'm like, hey, I'll take your cart when you're done.
Sure, they appreciate it.
Yeah, whatever. Just be nice. It takes me like a minute of waiting there.
So I'm an Eagle Scout. Actually, we have 3 generations. My dad was an Eagle. I'm an Eagle. My brother, and then my son is an Eagle Scout.
Very cool.
So helping people was kind of be prepared,
Always
do something,
prepared, yeah.
and helping people. And so, but one of the things I started doing recently, and I'll come back to your billboard, but is if I see somebody, say for example, if it's a young lady or an older lady, doesn't matter. The lady has colored hair, blue, purple hair. I like your hair.
Yeah.
I like that dress. I'm not being rude. I like that dress.
Yeah.
Hey, dude,
just say something nice.
Say something nice to somebody.
Compliment
because you don't know what that does for them and how it changes.
Having daughters, I do
day.
Understand now. I didn't as a guy with not understanding that stuff.
Right.
Even being married, I don't think I got how important words of affirmation are.
Yeah. My wife's best friend, I remember this very well. She told us that her dad always told her, I love you and you're beautiful.
Yes.
And she may not have felt that way, but she believed it. And so one of the things I started doing several years ago was I get a yellow sticky note and I send it to all of my daughters, to my daughter-in-laws, to my nieces and grandnieces. I don't do as much as I should, but just a little note to them that says, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're powerful, you're strong,
right?
And I love you.
Yeah.
And I mail
That's
it to
awesome.
them. And so it's just a way to one of my nieces keeps them on the board. Right?
Yeah. Oh, right.
And it's just a way to affirm that you care about somebody. Back to your bulletin board. The last thing would be, come in, do something.
Yeah, come in and do something. Yeah. So on the idea there, I love you and you're beautiful. So my wife said early on, I've heard that you can push off a lot of problems of daughters if the dad just simply says every night,
Yes.
I love you and you're beautiful. I'm
Yes.
like, okay, I'll do it.
Right.
I think I just gave him other problems, but they don't have those.
If you don't do it and you mean it, then someone who doesn't mean it is going to say it.
Oh yeah, and it's going to capture their heart the wrong way.
We've made a point of raising our daughters to be strong and independent. I made my daughters change tires.
Oh yeah.
Kate sent me a picture one time. She changed the alternator on her car. Her boyfriend was like, she was like, why? And he goes, this is before Josh. He's like, why'd you do this? Because my dad says I could do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's just
that's powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. So I also do the sticky note thing. So I'll take them and I'll put them on their seats and I'll try to write something to the kids that is, and my wife, that's meaningful, not just, hey, I love you. Something that was important to them or a characteristic that I've seen, right? And the other day, I was helping her clean something going around the different closets. And so one of them has it on the inside of their wardrobe area. And another one, if you go in their closet, they're all post. I thought they just threw them away.
No, they don't. They keep them.
They saved them and they're on the wall.
I was doing this in high school. When they were in high school, and I would do lunches. I'd sneak them in the lunch.
Yeah.
And there was a Facebook post out there that Kate posted one time. She goes, she's in college, late college, because I was going through a drawer and I found all these notes from my dad, and she took a picture and pasted it on there. And you wouldn't believe the number of people who responded back and said, one, my dad did the same thing, or I wish
I did, right.
Right? And
yeah.
so for my wife, it's different. I write notes. Melly writes notes.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And
the dog.
And Melly's a little bit dyslexic.
Hey, I'm good with that.
And has spelling issues. but
Oh,
it's,
that's cute. That's
but it's
awesome.
just a way of communicating.
All right, last one.
Yeah.
What are your starting words in Wordle?
I don't do Wordle.
You don't play, so your starting words are 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do WOW, which is
what is that?
It's like a crossword kind of thing. Again, you're given anywhere from 5 to 8 letters, and then they're scrambled, and you try to find as many
I've
words.
seen that. Yeah. And then when you do that, it goes to another.
It goes to another
And
level.
it keeps building the puzzle. Yeah, I realized quickly that I'm not made for that. Like actually spelling words correctly.
Yeah, that's be a tough one.
Yeah, no, and I'm
I
like,
can see that.
they're like, Dad, why are you no good at this? I'm like,
Because that word looks correct to me.
It does. That's like,
and it keeps telling me it's wrong.
yeah. So the hardest part I think about this doing the dyslexia thing without any like knowing that it was happening was, if you spell the wrong, it's obvious it's wrong. But going to an engineering school where numbers are important, 54 and 45 are both valid numbers.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I just swapped that around. Did I? I don't know if I did. And so yeah, that was tough.
That's one of the things in computer science, learning that 0 is a valid number in computer science.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. For us, 0 means nothing.
Right.
But 0 has a place in computer
Sure.
science.
Well,
and so
yeah.
when you are numbering things, when we store stuff in computer science purposes, the first index position
Is the 0.
Is 0.
So I was doing something with Levi on Python, and he's like, he said, I'm stuck. I said, do you want help? He's like, it's not like you're going to know what I'm doing. I'm like, let me see. It's just computer programming. I know Fortran and Pascal and some C. So I look at it, I'm like, okay. And I didn't know that about the 0 position. I said, you got an array. He looked at me, he's like, yes, it is an array.
Yep.
I'm like, that's
a list.
rocket science,
Yeah.
a list. And so I had the position wrong. He's like, well, that's the 0 position. I'm like, So yeah, he called me out on that one.
Every programming language has 3 things: variables, repetitive statements, loops, and conditional statements, if statements. If it doesn't have those 3 things, it's not programming.
They also have the 4th thing, which is irritation.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I messed this up. Where? It's a semicolon somewhere. I tell them out all the time. They're like, this program won't compile. I'm like, you probably missed a semicolon. No, it's not. It's Dad, it was a semicolon. I'm like, it always is. There's some sort of
The boss is
parentheses,
like, are you
brace.
sure you compiled it? Yes, baby, I'm sure. Are you sure? I'll go back and do it again. She comes in and goes, was it compiled? Oh, no.
So you can be a computer science guy and still do CrossFit. That's what we're saying. You can be 50 to 60 and still do CrossFit.
You can be anything.
You can be anything.
And do CrossFit.
And you can be anybody and be kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, that was good. Any other parting words?
Heck no, other than this was
It's a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think we should do this on a regular. I think we should pick a
So
topic.
I would love to come back and be like, what happened? And like, tell me the last 6 months. What were they? What did you journey? What is this, right?
Or just topics about anything that
Yeah.
I think we can. Which
it'd
your
be
whole
fun.
your whole purpose of these things is to help people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so yes, my buddies want to do a 5 Old Guys podcast, and I'm like, it would be interesting, but you kind of like have to drill down, like, what do you want to do? And so we did one. We got on Zoom and talked about Bitcoin, and they're like, you can put it on yours. I'm like, I am not putting that on, because it's not exactly what I'm trying to do, and it was a bunch of dudes, but we could create a separate podcast. So Jay, Kelly Teresi's husband, Jay, has a podcast, and there was somebody else in the gym that has a podcast. But I think it'd be fun to like talk about like just the perspective of 2 decent guys and what's going on.
One of the things I wish in my head all the time is I wish I had a podcast that was shit I should have taught my kids. Right?
Yes.
Right? So like pay extra for the heavy duty hose, garden hose, otherwise it's going to twist on you.
It is.
Or if you've got a hinge that's come loose because the hole where the screw goes in is worn out, well, take toothpicks, put glue on, take a bunch of toothpicks, put glue on, stick it in there, break the toothpicks off, and then drill back in. So all this little stuff
You could teach. Yeah.
You know.
I always go and take out the small screws and put in like 1/2-inch screws.
Longer ones?
Yeah. So especially on the front doors, so it just keeps it.
Well,
from,
it's a little more stable that way. But when it hollows out like that, just stick a bunch of toothpicks in there with glue.
Yeah, and just it'll hold itself in there. Yeah. All right, we'll do this again. So that means.
Hey, maybe the audience can give us topics.
That's true. Actually, nobody emails me in yet. So if you're interested in something, email me at andy@crossfitgarage.com, or just go to our website and text me. My phone number's on there, which Levi said it shouldn't be, but
Shouldn't be.
it's just my cell phone. I'm like, small business, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do get a lot of phone calls, which is interesting. Usually the people who call are 50 and up. So I'm like, I know exactly.
They know how to use the phone. I mean,
That's
they
right,
use the
that's
phone
what
for
they-
talking, not for.
Right. I get some texts, but I'm like, okay, so it's probably like 40 and down, and you're 50 and up. Yeah, it is interesting the segment of people that do the thing they're used to. Right. Yeah. So, all right. Cool, man. This was good. Thank you for meeting me here. It was a lot of fun. All right, guys. Again, if you are a friend of Jeff's looking for a gym, or just a person that listening to us and thinking, hey, I want to try something, I will literally help you find a gym. If it's not here in Woodstock, Georgia, the internet has your gym, and we can drill down. I've already helped a couple people find one. And if you don't like it, whatever, just switch to the gym. So usually they'll have a non-contract price. So just pay that for a month and see what you do. We don't have contracts, because if Jeff's says, I got to move to Alaska again, I'm not going to hold him to a contract. We're friends. So I'm just like, whatever, we don't do that. But anyway, we're here to help. If you need us, you know where to find us. Y'all take care.